Coming to paperback and e-readers everywhere, E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewoman in this action-packed, all-new E-Steam series adventure. Pre-order your copy of E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman on Amazon.com today. Over the weekend, I got a chance to take a look at Matt Reeves' The Batman, and I have to say that this adaptation of The Dark Knight is the closest to a Batman comic since Tim Burton's 1989 Batman. Now, Tim Burton's 1989 Batman had powerful visuals that truly captured the spirit of the Jim Aparo era of Batman comics. But Matt Reeves' The Batman really captures the spirit of one of the greatest eras of Batman, and that is the era of legendary late writer Denny O'Neil and the recently passed away Neil Adams. When I look at many of the shots in Matt Reeves' The Batman, it's like looking at the 1970s Batman run from Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams come to life on screen. And the storytelling here really captures the darkness of that 1970s era of Batman, and that's another thing I really enjoyed about this film, and I also enjoyed about the whole visual design. When I look at your Matt Reeves Batman's costume, the cowl really reminds me a lot of the way Neil Adams drew Batman, and the costume with the slim athletic physique also reminds me so much of the Neil Adams Batman. Now, I know that there was some cosmetic takes as related to the look, but it's basically looking at a Neil Adams Batman brought to life on screen. So that was one of the things I really enjoyed about this Batman. The other thing I enjoyed was the capturing the spirit of other eras of Batman, such as Batman Beyond, The Long Halloween, and I even saw a little bit of the new Teen Titans brought into this Batman with that contact lens computer that Batman and Catwoman wore, because I remember your Terra and Deathstroke wearing those in the early 80s, went before the Judas contract. So I really like all of the little touches that they took from the comics and made fresh for this story. And the other thing I really love about this take of Batman is that this Batman is a mystery. Many of the other Batman movies were superhero movies where Batman, it was all about Batman being a hero, but what makes this version of Batman fantastic is the fact that we actually get to see him be a detective for the entire story. Now, back in '89, we did get a little snippet of the Michael Keaton Batman using his detective skills to solve the mystery of the Smilex, but this whole movie is a mystery regarding the politics of Gotham City, and it's all about the Riddler making this mystery regarding these politicians and their corruption. Now, the Riddler in this story is murdering many of these prominent politicians, starting with the mayor, and this is where your Lieutenant James Gordon decides to bring in the Batman to help him solve the case. Now, this Batman is in the second year of being Batman, and he's focused on mostly being a instrument of darkness and vengeance, and that plays a major role in Batman's character transformation arc. And that's something I really love about this version of Batman, is we get a character transformation arc for Batman. We see him start at a certain point as related to his career. He's in the second year of his career. He's working with the police, and he's going on here being this symbol of vengeance, And that starts out the story where he talks about how the bat signal is a warning, and it's all about him being this fearful and terrorizing individual that terrorizes criminals. But we start to see that there is more to it as the story goes along. And as the story goes along, and we see Batman trying to solve the mysteries of the Riddler, we see him starting to learn more and more about the dark politics that goes on behind the scenes that leads to all of the corruption that has practically plagued Gotham City and turned it into basically a hellhole where nobody is happy and the place is just miserable all the time. So, as Batman goes out here looking to try to solve the mystery of these murders, he peels back the layers of a very dark onion as related to showing that many of these people who were supposed to be the leaders in Gotham City, they were really just underlings looking to follow the lead of this mobster, Carmine Falcone. Now, I don't want to give away too much of this story because this story is absolutely fantastic in the Batman. And while they took some creative liberties with Bruce Wayne's family, I'm not too happy about with Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne. They do fit into the story organically, and they show how all of your Thomas Wayne's good intentions took him on a dark road to hell, and how this leads to your Gotham City really becoming a worse place, ironically, as the result of his plans to try to renew Gotham City. And it just shows how dangerous politics can make people, and it shows how deep politics can corrupt the minds of people. And what I really liked here with the Batman was all of the psychology, because all of the psychology really made the story very compelling. Everything from Bruce Wayne and his motivations for becoming the Batman, your Selina Kyle being extremely emotional regarding her miserable situation and looking for a way out of it, and your Penguin looking to gain opportunities, and your Riddler looking to gain power. There are just so many compelling stories in the Batman, and so many great performances in the Batman. I mean, I really like the chemistry between the Batman and your Commissioner Gordon. There was really great dynamics between them, and I really like seeing that relationship form. And I also like the back and forth between Selina and Bruce, and I also like the tension between Alfred and Bruce. Just so many great interactions in the Batman. But one of the best was the whole thing when Batman has his confrontation with the Riddler. When your Batman has your confrontation with the Riddler, this is key to the whole story of the movie, and it is one of the best moments in the movie when your Riddler, behind the glass, looking like a broke Bill Gates, is sitting there confronting the Batman, and he's got to really take a look at himself. And that's one of the key points of the story that shows us your Batman going from being a symbol of vengeance to starting on the road to becoming a Dark Knight. And that's the thing that I love the most about the Batman, is the character transformation arc takes us from Batman being a symbol of vengeance to starting on the road to becoming a Dark Knight, understanding that he needs to be more than just some mysterious entity behind the scenes like he was in many of the other Batman movies. I mean, in Batman 89, he was basically an enigma, and in the Nolan trilogy, he was also another enigma. But what I like about this movie is that the Batman is a person, and he's a person who is looking to connect with the people of Gotham City, and that is one of the best things about the third act of the Batman, is that we see the man and we see his mission, and we see that he cares about people, and that's something we haven't seen in Batman since the early days of the Batman animated series with Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. We never got to see that human side of Bruce Wayne and Batman, and I really liked seeing that in those final scenes of the movie where he realizes that he needs to be more because once he has that confrontation with one of the Riddler's goons, it really makes him think about who he is and what he's representing because he realizes that he can't just be vengeance because that's what the Riddler wanted to be was a kind of vengeance, and that's when he starts walking down the road to justice. And that's what I really loved about this version of the Batman is we get to see all of the aspects of Batman and we get to see them all from a human perspective. And this is where Matt Reeves really shines with this movie. He really shines with this movie because he shows us the Batman character as a person. We get to connect with him as a human being. We get to connect with his mission as a human being. And that's what makes his film one of the best adaptations of Batman I have ever seen. And the character transformation arc of Bruce Wayne in this movie as Batman, this is one of the reasons why this is one of the best adaptations of the character. Now, Matt Reeves is known for slipping in social commentary between the lines of his movies, like he did in Planet of the Apes, and that was another thing that really impressed me with this film, the way he just slipped that social commentary in about America's culture wars and between the lines of the Batman. In between the lines of the Batman, he not only talks about your Batman being a symbol of justice, he also talks about how dangerous it is to be on the sides of extremes. Because when I was looking at Gotham's politicians, they reminded me of the far left. And when I look at the Riddler's goons, they remind me of the far right. And it's really like Matt Reeves quietly making a commentary about the left and Trump supporters and how both sides are all about chaos and how we the people, which represent the citizens of Gotham City, are caught between the chaos of these individuals who are on these extremes and how their good intentions took everything on the road to hell because you had the politicians who wanted to go out here and renew Gotham City, but because they got caught up in their corruption and caught up in their ideals, they wound up turning Gotham City into a hellhole. And then you had your Edward Nygma, or Eddie Nashton in this movie, the Riddler, wanting to go out here and make his own change on the far right. And he wanted to make change by going out here and killing the politicians and then going out here and murdering the citizens in the city. So basically what your Matt Reeves brilliantly did with this movie was he made a brilliant comment about your Trump supporters and your far leftists, and he showed how both sides don't really help anything and how your people, we the people, wind up suffering, and how the symbol of justice, Batman, is important because he has to be in the middle to represent something that shows that people are important and that people are more important than ideals. That's what I really loved about the Batman was the social commentary he was making, and that social commentary again really was something that I believe flew over some people's heads because some people looked at Selena Kyle talking about the things that's related to social justice, but I looked at the way your Batman was acting and he realized that he could not be about social justice because social justice was just as extreme as the far left, and he could not be on the anarchy and chaos of the far right because in the center was justice. And that was shown to me in that climactic scene when they're inside of the stadium, which was inspired, I believe, by Hurricane Katrina. And instead of him, he's swinging in between of the things, and there's this electricity going, and people are about to be hurt. And he decides to cut that whole thing down to protect the people So he sides with the people, and that's where we see your Batman go from being dark to becoming a knight and looking to protect the people. And that was one of the most brilliant things about the film. And that was the powerful commentary that your Matt Reeves was making, just the same way he was making a commentary about black people in Planet of the Apes. I mean, a lot of people looked at this, especially the second Planet of the Apes, and they could see the commentary Matt Reeves was making between the lines. But I could see what he was saying between the lines here in Batman about social justice, about identity politics, about all of these different issues going on in the country over this culture war. And this film really made a brilliant commentary between the lines about the culture wars, about social justice, and staying true to the spirit of those classic 1970s Batman comics. That's what I really like a lot about the Batman, while they stayed true to the source material of the Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams era and honored those two great late men. They also went out here and kept the story relevant to 21st century issues and gave us basically a timeless story about a man rising from being a symbol of vengeance to becoming a knight of justice. And I look at this movie, and again, I am really floored by Robert Pattinson's brilliant performance. I mean, this is really his breakout performance as I see it. He has surpassed Twilight. He's really taken his skills to the next level. I mean, everything here was fantastic as related to his performance. Colin Farrell basically got his signature role, as I see it, with the Penguin. I mean, this guy should be getting an Oscar nomination for that performance because that was how good he was. And there was also, your Zoe Kravitz was decent as Selena Kyle. And then you had Andy Serkis's Alfred, which put a new take on the character. So many great performances, such beautiful cinematography as to certain scenes. I mean, some of them are a little too dark for me, but the ones that were there were well done. Like the whole Batman chase scene, that was something I really enjoyed seeing because for the first time we got to see a Batmobile, which is an actual car. We haven't seen that since, I say, Batman 89, where we saw an actual car. I mean, yeah, they had one in Batman and Robin, but they just got, and Batman Forever, but they were looking absurd. This was an actual car that actually did what the Batmobile did in the comics. And that sequence in the car chase, that's one of the best action sequences I have seen in a good 15 years in a movie. And basically all the stunt work there was just excellent and well done. I mean, that was another great thing about the Batman, just so many great action scenes, so much great storytelling. I mean, this movie, even though it's 3 hours long, it's well worth the time, and it's a grand epic film that basically feels like a whole 3-issue or 4-issue story arc of a Batman comic come to life. And I give this film my highest recommendation. The Batman is one of the best films of 2022, and I'd have to say it's one of the best adaptations of the Batman character I have seen since 1989, capturing the spirit of the comics and putting a fresh take on things. And I can't wait to see what Matt Reeves has to offer as related to the Batman, because he has given us a Batman for the 21st century, and he's also made one of the best commentaries as related to your modern social justice, identity politics, Donald Trump. I mean, he's just made a brilliant film here, and the writing is on the level of writers like Rod Serling and Alfred Hitchcock. And I'd have to say that this is a masterpiece of a film, and I recommend you definitely go out and see it. Now, if you want to see me do more superhero movie reviews like this and be able to pay for services like HBO Max to review them, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my books featuring the heroes of the SJS Direct universe, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy,
You can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find those books on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And my upcoming comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, will be coming to Kickstarter soon, so I hope you put in a pledge for that comic and see my first full comic on the SJS Direct imprint. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online booksellers everywhere today.